Are you suffering from analysis paralysis? Are you constantly overthinking and spending a lot of time strategizing, trying to understand and comprehend and logically consume and really digest all of the options that are available to you, all of the different opportunities, all of the many choices that you can make? Are you spending a lot of time thinking about that and not enough time making decisions and actually moving forward, actually taking action? I know what that feels like. I've been in that state for a very long time. Before I started my YouTube channel, before I started losing weight, before I created an amazing relationship, I always thought that, hey, maybe I should do this. Well, if I don't do that, what happens if I do this? I could try that out. There's always the option to do this instead. And there's all these ideas, there's all these concepts, there's all this information. But because you're spending so much time analyzing, you're obviously paralyzed. And you're stuck. You can't do anything, you can't create any results because you're just caught in a spiral, in a loop where you're always thinking. Thinking. How do you break the pattern? My favorite way, personally, is actually just to go exercise. And I know that might sound strange, but hear me out on this. If you go and do some kind of physical activity, whether that's rowing a boat or climbing a mountain or just going for a jog, what that does is get you out of your head, get you out of the analysis paralysis spiral where you're constantly thinking. It forces you into your body. And what that does is bring out the presence in you. Because if you aren't able to make a decision, if you've been thinking, if you've been strategizing, if you've run it all through your head a million times and you still can't make a choice, you still can't move forward, then obviously it's choking you up, it's suffocating you, it's blocking you. And you think that you're gonna solve your problems by thinking, when in all reality, the most important thing to do is to get out of your head. Because thinking isn't always the way to make a decision. Sometimes you need some emotion. You need a feeling, you need your intuition, and you can't access that when you're constantly going around and thinking, analyzing, looking at all the options, looking at all the alternatives, and trying to make sense of everything. Sometimes it doesn't need to be made sense of. That's what I realized. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense, Sometimes you can't logically rationalize it to yourself, and that's okay. But if you're clinging on to somehow coming to this solution that you've thought through all the options, you're keeping yourself stuck forever. Infinitely. You're always going to come up against the wall because you're just not letting yourself try anything. The best way to really figure out what works is to test it. Run an experiment. Instead of thinking about what might happen if you do the experiment, actually do the experiment. If you're thinking that you should try to approach somebody in the street, do it. Instead of thinking about what might happen if you do, how about you actually do it and see what happens? Because your mind is always projecting. Your mind is always trying to rationalize and come up with reasons why you should or shouldn't. But if you step out of all that and just go for a run, you'll find yourself calming down. You need to shut this thing down. You can't solve overthinking by thinking more. You can't actually reach a point where you're gonna take action if you're constantly thinking. Because that's the only action you'll be taking. You'll be stuck in this spiral forever. And really, it never ends. That's the most frustrating thing. So long as you keep thinking, so long as you keep giving energy to these thoughts, is as long as you'll stay stuck with no progress, no growth, no evolution, and really nothing will happen for you. But the moment you decide, you say, you know what? Let me just take some action. Any action will do. Hell, sometimes it's better to just go outside and take a few breaths, Go get a glass of water than sitting there or laying there and just thinking. Because the energy is building up, it's getting more and more dense, and you're not going to have a moment of clarity this way. Please understand that this is not the recipe to having an epiphany. The recipe is to go take a cold shower. I know that sounds weird. If you've been thinking, if you've been rationalizing everything, if you're trying to make a decision, that's the last thing you want to hear. You're like, no, and the resistance comes up. But honestly, it's the only way out of that spiral. If you've been stuck in analysis paralysis, you must take some kind of action. You must get yourself into your body, out of your head, into the present moment, and out of the analysis spiral. Because that's the only way you'll ever move forward, and that's the only way that you'll ever create any kind of result that will be meaningful to you. Because so long as you keep thinking, you will only encounter the same ideas, the same thoughts. But if you go have a new experience, if you go throw yourself out of that comfort zone, all of a sudden ideas will just flow to you. I mean, they will overwhelm you. But you just gotta get out of that old loop, the old habits, the old thinking patterns, because obviously so far, they more than likely have not done you any good. So shake it up, get out of your head, and you'll see that the analysis paralysis really doesn't have any power over you. You can control it, and you don't have to let it keep you stuck.